Okay, this is a ES trade I placed last night. I typically don't place trades on them unless it is the US stock market during the first 2 hours. So 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So that being said, it was pulling back to one of our zones. So we like we mark zones on a 4-hour time frame. So that yellow zone up there is basically off a 4-hour turning point in the market. So when I got in the trade, my first thing I have to look at before I actually get into the trade is there enough room to profit? So is there enough room from where I look at my entry point? Is there enough room before it hits the zone for me to close out part of my profit? And if there is, I can get in with multiple contracts and then close out part of the contracts as it goes up. And then if I start seeing it rounding over and a lower low, lower highs form on underneath that zone, well, then I would look to get out and go short. So instead of this doing that on this one, anytime you're really not sure of an entry, or anytime it's like this, it's off hours, you can always scale into your position. And that's what I did here. So I just kind of want to go over it real quick. So basically, I put one contract at that price level right there. So that's my original entry, one contract. This is my stop loss. Basically, it formed a low down here, came up and formed a high, and then came down and formed a higher low, and then came back up, breaking those highs, and then basically forming a higher high. Now I'm on a 1 minute just to show this, but you 3, 5 doesn't matter. A 3 minute, it still formed a higher, it formed a high, low, higher high here. So you look for it to pull back and get in. So that's when I happen to notice it. And I'm like, okay, it's bounced several times at basically this price level here. Okay, around that price point. So again, this is like old resistance becoming future support. So I went ahead and got in. I got in light because, again, off hours, not sure how it's going to go, not really trending all that nicely. So I got in with one contract. Okay. Then when it pulled up to my zone, I was in enough profit position. Because one thing you have to remember is every time you add contracts, your order moves. So I like to be able to protect that position. So I will add to the contract. I will add contracts in as long as I can move my stop and protect the whole order at that point in time. So as it moved up here, I didn't really move my stop to break even. I let it go. So right when it was up here, basically it touched near that level, that zone, pulled back a little bit. I'm like, okay, I just want to add one more on just in case it breaks through the zone. So again, this was a riskier setup, trying to get in before the market moves during the stock market, first 2 hours, and not knowing if it's going to go clear, because we actually have a down trend line way out from it, and not knowing if it's going to go all the way through there, not knowing if it's going to break through the 4-hour time zone here, the 4-hour price level, support level, and resistance level. Well, at that point, there's just so many unknowns. So we go in a little lighter. Again, we can scale in. So I actually added a contract. I moved my stop here because my order moved right there. So I try and mark these up where I can go back over and show you. So when I placed the other contract on, it moved the order right here. So really, really close. Didn't really like that, but what are you going to do? So yes, I went ahead and moved my stop better than break even, because at that point it's at my zone. So at that point it could hit that zone and pop down. But I was willing to leave it on because I was going to bed. Leave it on. Let's see what happens. Well, this is what I woke up to. So it did go through the zone and broke out the top. So it actually tested the bottom of the zone a few times, blew through the top, come back to retest that zone, and then popped up another nicer pullback off a big swing, and then took off. So what I did at that point was when it was here, when it was pulling back a little bit, just because I was making breakfast, didn't have my charts up yet. So I wasn't at the computer looking when it was up here. So that's just happened to be where I looked in on the market. So when I looked in, I actually closed out 2 trades. Oh, sorry, I had 3 on. I had 3 total on. This one I added, that should have been 2. I'm sorry. I actually added 2 on that. Because I only went in with 1. So when it basically was here, I said, okay, let's go ahead and close out 2. That's a good run from where I added the 2. That's kind of like my bonus. So I put in 1 originally, added 2 here. Well, then I was able to close out 2 here. So to me, that's decent profit from here to here on the 2, and I still have 1 on. So that was decent profit. I closed out 2. Well, when I closed out 2, guess what? The order moved. So the order moved to where it is right now. And I moved my stop where? I moved my stop from down here to up here to protect my order. Still a risk-free runner. Okay. Now, I don't know if this is going to continue to run or not. I'm fine with my order where it is, and I move my stop up here. That's kind of aggressive because it may come down to test the top of the zone. I'm fine with that because if it does and I get a good bounce and good criteria, I will get back in. So right now, if you look, we're up about $93. Nothing impressive. Our stop's a little better than half even, or a halfway mark. Okay. So we're, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks, $45, $50 is all we're going to lock in on that. So don't really care. We've already made our profit on this move here, the 2 we closed out. This is the original one we stuck on way down here. So overall, it's had a good run as well. But I don't want to close it out. Now, if I start seeing a turn in here, if I want to, I can add a couple more in. Or I tell you this, if it pulls back to the zone and starts turning down here somewhere, I would add in a couple more contracts and then close them out at my partial profit. But that's kind of what I wanted to go over, just show you how the ES trade played out. And again, if you have reasons to stay out or you have reasons to hesitate as to why you should take the trade, if your checklist isn't 100% checked off, well, then you go in lighter. And my checklist was checked off. However, I had a cautionary area. So I got in here. There was enough room for me to profit, closing partial, but instead I just went in light. I didn't want to go in with the full contract size of what I trade. So I went in light. I went in with 1 and then added 2. And yes, I added 2 right when it was under the zone. So it could have worked out completely different. But the reason why I added 2 there is because, again, my order moved. So my order moved. I had to move my stop to protect my position so I would not take a loss first thing of the week. Okay. It could have very well turned there and came down and stopped me out. I was willing to take that chance to have 3 contracts on. So this one worked out. It very well. The next one may not. The next one may do this and pull down to stop me out on all those. And I'm okay with that because I'm taking a chance that if it runs through the night, it's not running without me. Okay. And it did just that. It did not run without me. So, and here's what I was talking about earlier. We have a downtrend line up here. So it's basically tracking its way to that. May move sideways in here. I mean, we're seeing some big swings more sideways. Right now we're forming a lower low. So it's probably going to pull back toward that zone. So a little more sideways or pullback move. But right now it's tracking over to that line. So that's all I wanted to mention. Just kind of go over that trade. Thanks. Have a great day. Trade safe.